That's not really how it's supposed to be either. Oh well, we're gonna do it like this tonight. What y'all know about that song? Huh? What's going on, folks? Listen in here for some goodness. Yes, come on. If you know what that song is, and you know what this week is, and you know what that means to all of us bass fishing addicts deep down in our soul, man, let the Bassmasters old school anthem ring in your ears a little bit. Come on. Yeah. What's going on, guys? Welcome back to your Lake Fork Guide. And hey, tonight we're going to talk about bass fishing being here, man. Like real professional tournament bass fishing is finally back, man. And there's going to be drama like always. Last year, the opening tournament, we had a huge cheating scandal and didn't even find out about it till the end of the year on Bass Pro Tour. We'll kind of recap some of that, and will we see any cheating this year? And if there is cheating, will it get publicly known like it ended up getting known at the end of this past season? We're going to talk about all the drama, sponsorship issues, things that go kind of some of the more controversial sides of tournament bass fishing. We're going to go into some of that tonight. Because you know how we do it here at your Lake Fork Guide. If you haven't been here before, welcome. Thank you so much for watching. But yeah, there really ain't nowhere we don't pull up the rug and look under and see what you swept under there. Like, we're going to go ahead and dig into it a little bit. And I've been kicking around the fishing industry for a little while, and I have just enough connections to get a little bit of the picture of what goes on behind the scenes. And I can tell you guys some pretty crazy stories. And you know what? We might get into some of those tonight about how prevalent cheating is on the professional tournament level and tournament ranks. Like, how many of those guys are willing to cheat? How open are they about it? How easily do they pursue an avenue that could be considered cheating? So we'll get into some of that tonight. We'll just, again, to start off, we're going to talk about the tournaments that are coming up because it's finally the week that we've all been waiting on. If you're a bass fishing fan, we've been waiting since last late summer, early fall for this week right here. We've got both of them kicking off. We've got the Bass Pro Tour going off, I believe, Monday, coming up Monday. We got the Bass Pro Tour going off, and then 1 week from today starts the Bassmaster Elite Series. They will run across each other on the schedule on this first event, and we're going to talk more about that later and some of the drama that has been over the last few years and how they've actually improved some of that this year. So before we go any further into tonight's live stream, I do want to say thank you to all the folks that are watching, all the fine folks in your Lake Fork Guide Nation that are watching. Not real sure why my live stream is making me go in vertical instead of horizontal, but hey, this is what we got. Z-Dub says, if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying hard enough. It's also not cheating if you don't get caught. That's what my drill instructor told me in Marine Corps boot camp. When in doubt, look about. We're going to say hello and how you doing instead of early risers in the chat real quick. Got My Chaotic Fishing, Timmerman Fishing, Zach Watts, Texas Dumb Bass, Rocky Shoes in the house, Justin Miner, Dusty Smith, John Sherrod, Todd, Udi, Billy Snow, and so many more coming in and joining us as we get going here tonight, man. Thank you, guys. Appreciate y'all. If I didn't say hello to you in the comments, I apologize, but I appreciate every single one of y'all. We got to know about Livesey and Ballistic. We'll talk about that some tonight. I'll talk, from the perspective of what I know. I don't know if you've caught on to this. Me and Lee ain't really like best friends. Like, Lee don't come sit on this next chair. Like, that's not Lee's seat. That Lee don't hang out right there and drink his Michelob Ultra. By the way, you know why they make Michelob Ultra in them real skinny cans, don't you? Everybody know why they do that? Because have small hands. Just saying. Shots fired. That's just a joke. Listen, don't come in here with your sensitivity. I skipped sensitivity training. Don't bring your feelings up in this chat room. There just ain't no room for it. You guys can make fun of me. I'll make fun of y'all. We'll have a good time. But please don't bring your feelings. It's a fishing chat, folks. Calm down. Nobody get your feelings hurt. That's all I'm saying. I know it's 23. I'll probably get a letter in the mail next week about how somebody's going to sue me for saying that. So cheers, y'all. Let's get it. Yeah, man. Get a little sip of that brown and then give me a little Lucky Lipper in. And let's get to doing what we're here to do. Got a couple of announcements. So, first thing, tomorrow night, free seminar, Lake Fork Marina. We'll get a little more serious, talk a little more in-depth fishing detailed stuff. Tomorrow night at Lake Fork Marina at 6 p.m. Upper room in the tackle store there. Come join us, man. We'd love to have you guys out and love to be a part of that. And just come hang out with us and talk fishing or whatever you guys want to talk about. And we'll try to help you any way we can. I guess really what I need to address is where the heck have I been? Boys, for the first time ever that I'm pretty sure This is the first time this has ever happened to me. I've been guiding since 2015, been full-time since early 2017. So almost 6 years full-time and almost 8 years since I started, part-time guiding. I had a sick day. I actually missed a guide trip Tuesday and then missed another trip on Wednesday from being sick. I came home Monday. Everything was good on Monday. Went and had my guide trip. Had a good time. Big windy day, but we caught some fish. I think we caught about 10 or so fish on Monday. No, nothing real big, but some good, 4-pounders and stuff like that, 3 to 5 pound type fish. Had a fun time. Great day with John and John on Monday. I get home Monday night and I'm thinking I just got, some typical afternoon allergies going on from being on the water all day this time of year. And man, it just developed where I didn't hardly sleep all night and I was hacking and yakking stuff up and sneezing and I couldn't sleep for more than 30 minutes at a time. And lo and behold, I ended up getting sick. And I messaged my guy for Tuesday at like 3 or 4 in the morning and say, man, ain't no way I can make it. I ain't been to sleep yet. I've been, chucking stuff up, all that good stuff. And I actually stayed at home for the next 2 days and it just been dog sick, man. Got a fever and all that. I don't know if I got the vid or what happened, but I actually missed fishing trips from being sick for the first time in the last 6-8 years since I've been doing this. So it's been tough. That's why the content hasn't been coming out. Last week's ice didn't help us get content, but I still would have made content this week for you guys if it wouldn't have been for me being so sick. So I apologize for missing you guys this week. We started off with the 300 days, and then I failed on it already. But we should be back in the saddle now. I'm feeling great. Today's the first day I felt great all day today. Full energy, feeling good. Still got a little congestion, but nothing as far as sickness goes. So we're rocking and rolling again now. And here we are live tonight. We'll have content for you guys of some kind next week. So stay tuned for that. Now, in the past, we've seen these two tournament trails scheduled on top of each other. And I've called many times for that nonsense to stop because that's what it is. It is absolute, utter BS nonsense for these two tournament trails to be scheduling over the top of each other because the only reason they're doing that, let's get this straight. The only reason that's happening is that one tournament trail is trying to compete directly with the other tournament trail to try and tear their business down. That's what they're trying to do. They're trying to make that business be less than so that they can be more than. But these nearsighted, old school business people that sometimes don't see some of the newer ways of doing things in the bigger picture. And I'm an old school head. Now, I believe in the value of old school ways and old school values. I'm an old school kind of guy. I really am. But I don't think this is new school or old school. I think this is just true school. Like, this is just real. You're never going to get ahead. Truly, like, your building's not getting any bigger because you're trying to tear the other guys down. In fact, if anything, you're going to neglect your building and it's just going to get in worse shape. Your building will get bigger when you concentrate on building yours bigger instead of tearing the other guys down. And if you think about what those two tournament trails have done going head to head with each other, I'm only going to watch one at a time. I assume that the majority of the bass fishing fan world is similar to me, where they're only going to watch Bass Pro Tour or the Elite Series. They're not going to be watching both live. And nowadays, live coverage is everything. There's no more edited TV show that's a 1-hour show that comes out months after the tournament actually happens or weeks after the tournament actually happens. It's all the live coverage. The live coverage is the end-all to be-all in today's bass fishing world. So if I can't watch both at the same time, why would you want to, Bass Pro Tour, if you schedule on top of the Elite Series, for a fact you're going to eliminate a percentage of your viewership. Bassmaster, if you schedule on top of Bass Pro Tour, for a fact you're going to eliminate a percentage of your viewership during that live stream. That is going to hurt marketing dollars. That's going to hurt your data points. It's going to hurt your statistics of eyeball time that you have on your product, which is what sells your marketing dollars at the end of the year for the next year. Don't do that. Let's let each other have full access to the whole bass fishing community, right? You two guys are the top two. And we'll talk about that more here in a little bit too. There's two real professional level tournament trails. We'll talk about what used to be the FLW Tour here in a little while, because I don't think that really counts as a real professional level tournament trail anymore. I just don't think that it does. And we'll discuss that openly here in a little bit. If you disagree, we can debate it. With the Elite Series and Bass Pro Tour, don't schedule on top of each other at all. Then both of you can have 100% of the bass fishing world's attention when you're going. That's going to allow both of you to grow. That's going to allow more money to come into the bass fishing tournament fishing world. Do we realize that in the 1980s and 1990s, they were fishing for more money? Does anybody realize that? Like, do we really stop and think about how dramatic that is and how awful that is for our sport? Could you imagine if Troy Aikman, which some may say he should have got paid more, but if Troy Aikman had a bigger contract in 1991 than Dak Prescott has in 2021 or 23 now, could you imagine that? Like, that's not anything that's fathomable. But yet we had tournaments that were, if I just saw something pop up on my YouTube feed, and it's what reminded me of the old classic anthem, and it was an old tournament video, and they were fishing for $137,500 at a Bassmaster Invitational in like 1980, 1990, somewhere in there. 1980, late 80s, early 90s. So nowadays, if you win a Bassmaster Elite Series, you win $100,000. How on earth has that happened in our sport? That over 30 years of inflation, cost of living, cost of boats for sure, cost of fuel for sure. I mean, they were giving away $137,000 on a bass boat with 15 grand, and gasoline was $1 a gallon, guys. Think about that now. That's astronomically less money in today's time. So we need every dollar. The point for all that is we need every dollar to come in the sport that we can possibly get. And I think one of the number one things that we can all like that these two organizations can control right now is to quit stepping on each other's toes. In fact, let's help each other. Let's help each other grow. You two organizations, and let's get as many dollars into the sport as we can so that our fishermen can actually make somewhat of a decent living if you're one of the best in the world at what you do. Because right now they can't. They have to have side gigs. There is not a single professional tournament fisherman that is making his sole living from tournament winnings. Not one. Not happening. Pretty bad state of affairs financially for the anglers in professional tournament fishing. That's the number one thing I see that they could do to stop that. Now, what I will say is this year, will we see the drama that we've seen? Will we see the going at each other? I think some of that is starting to go by the wayside. I think some of that is finally starting to fade between Bass Pro Tour and the Elite Series. If you look at the schedule this year, yes, they overlap this week. Bass Pro Tour goes from Monday to, was it Friday or Saturday, coming up in their first event. And Bassmaster Elite Series starts that Thursday and goes through Sunday. So they're overlapping in the first event. But I believe that is the only time that they overlap, except for I think there's one day where they overlap in one event later in the year. Other than that, they actually do not overlap throughout the rest of the year. So we're making a step in that direction. So good job to both those organizations getting that worked out. Hopefully next year it'll be 100% no overlap. I think that's really, really important. I think that's an important thing, and I think it says a lot about where those two organizations stand on this and that they are trying to grow and not just trying to go tear each other down. So I'm looking forward to that and seeing how that develops. Cheating. Everybody knows about the walleye fishing deal. By the way, did anybody see the latest update on one of the walleye fishing guys? Let's chase a little squirrel. Sidetrack. Little squirrel. We're going to chase it real quick. So the walleye cheating guys, right? Everybody knows those. Everybody knows who the walleye, even people not in bass fishing know who the walleye cheating guys are. One of them was caught basically teaching his son and showing his son how to exchange counterfeit money for change at a bowling alley. Look it up. I'm not making this up. I'm not making this up. When you read the story, basically what happened was the dad was showing the kid and teaching him, his 18-year-old son, how to pass counterfeit dollars at a bowling alley and buy a certain amount of stuff and then get change back for that fake $100 bill. Now you got $40 in change, $50 in change, and you get to go bowling for your fake $100 bill. Not kidding. Literally using movie prop money that looks very real, but it states on there for movies only, not a real currency. But if you don't look at it real close, if you're just a guy working register at a bowling alley, you're just exchanging money, you don't catch it, it passes. Like that really happened. The same guy that got caught for the walleye tournament cheating. Same guy. Yeah. Okay. So on that note, last year's big cheating scandal, unfortunately, is linked to Lake Fork. You know, unfortunately for us around here, we do have to wear that. It is linked to one of our local guys. Used to guide out here. Been on the FLW tour, now been on the Bass Pro tour. Jeff Sprague. And I know, you know, I'm sure the last thing Jeff wants to hear is this get brought back up. And I'm sure the last thing Bass Pro Tour wants to hear is this get brought back up. But me personally, I don't think this got, look at that hair. Look at that. That's the old princess. Princess Laney has a great Pyrenees named Bear. And I think I brought some of them in here with me and now it's floating around. Don't you, oh my gosh, it's in my, I got bear hair in the solo cup, folks. We got problems. I got it out though. This is real, and it's live. No fakesies here. I don't think this got the run it deserves because this was such a big deal. And I know, I get it. The people at the top level, they want to sweep this under the rug. They don't want to talk about this very much. But this was an awful, awful, awful deal that happened last year. So I don't think I can say who the other person was. But basically what happened is, allegedly, all of this would be allegedly, but it's pretty well accepted, I think, at this point. I think everybody pretty well accepts the facts of this case. Bass Pro Tour is going to fish Lake D'Arbonne or Bussy, but those North Louisiana lakes they fished last year that they're fishing again this year. Or at least they're fishing a couple of them this year. There's a Bassmaster Elite Series angler that spent some years living over there, I believe when he was in college. This Bassmaster Elite Series angler knows Jeff personally. And according to the Bassmaster Elite Series angler, he says that Jeff told him that they didn't go off limits for information until their on the water off limit started, so the way it works is on the water off limit starts like 3 weeks or 4 weeks or 5 weeks, whatever it is, depending on the trail, before the tournament, before official practice days. So they'll get 2 or 3 official practice days before the tournament. And then from that, before that, until that time, for about 4 weeks out, usually 3 to 5 weeks out, they can't go on the water at all on that lake. But people go out and pre-practice, do what they call pre-practice. That means they're there a month and a half, 2 months, 3 months ahead of time, scouting the lake. And all these anglers, a lot of these anglers do pre-practice. So Jeff was going there for pre-practice, and he, according to the Bassmaster Elite Series angler that gave him this information, Jeff told him that, no, we don't go off limits for no information until our on the water off limit starts. Well, that's not true. They go off limits for information the moment it's announced on the schedule. It's the same way on the Bassmaster Elite Series. So this guy that was on the Bassmaster Elite Series, he knows that's the rule of Bassmaster. But supposedly he doesn't know that's the rule at the Bass Pro Tour. Okay, I mean, that's okay. He doesn't know that's the rule. I mean, I know that's the rule of Bass Pro Tour, and I don't fish on either one of them. But he doesn't know that's the rule. So he sends this guy text messages of where he fished when he lived there in his college days and where his buddy that still lives over there has been catching them. And, I mean, gives him the juice. I mean, gives him waypoints, and there's texts going back and forth. And Jeff takes that information. He goes on and has a top 10. I believe he finished like 4th or 5th or something like that in that tournament. Had a really good tournament. So this was known in back channels, supposedly, like allegedly, was known in back channels from the time that tournament ended pretty much, all through the year. And these screenshots of these messages got passed around in the back channels from one Elite Series angler to another, or one Bass Pro Tour angler to another, professional anglers just doing what they do, talking behind the scenes. And finally, somebody sent it to the right person, and it got put out on social, these screenshots got put out on social media. And it got found out that Jeff Sprague was getting information illegally. Then it became a big deal. So Bass Pro Tour knew about it, but did nothing about it until it became exposed public information. And then what did they do? They removed his points from that tournament, and they made him pay back his winnings from that tournament. But they did not suspend him. They did not do any further punishment. I believe the only punishment they did was to remove his points and take his money back. This was a clear and obvious effort to cheat the information rules. So if you don't know, the information rule goes as such. They are not allowed to solicit information. They're not allowed to willingly receive any information other than from a fellow competitor. And I believe on the Bass Pro Tour, they can't even get it from a competitor, or they've kind of changed that rule. But I know on the Elite Series, and I believe they've kind of adjusted the Bass Pro Tour to be very similar now, they cannot solicit or willingly receive information from anybody other than a fellow competitor in that field. So Jeff Sprague cannot talk to anybody about, Caney Creek, Darbone, whatever lake it was. They had those 3 lakes. He can't talk to anybody about any of those lakes, okay, except for Jordan Lee or Jacob Wheeler or somebody on the Bass Pro Tour. He can't talk to a guy on the Elite Series, okay, and get information from him. He can't talk to me. Now, if you're at a gas station and you run up to him and you go, man, you guys are fishing Darbone? Boy, I was up in them bushes in such and such creek the other day and we caught them flipping. If you just go up and say that, that's not going to get him suspended. But he has to report that to the organization, and that information has to be publicly distributed to all of the anglers. That's how they handle that. So that's how the information rule works, if you're wondering. So this was a very clear and obvious deceptive practice to try and cheat the rules on the part of Jeff. How much does that happen? Every event. Like, if you want to know the truth about it, that most likely happens at every event. Here's what I can tell you. When they've come to Lake Fort, I have had professional anglers straight up, like, some of them are like, dude, we can't talk, don't say anything about Lake Fort. Like, when I talk to them, have a private conversation with them or anything, they're like, hey, don't say anything about the lake, man. I can't get any information. Most of them are like that. I'll say it. Most of them are like that. But there are several that are willing to hear information if I'll tell it, and some that will straight up ask me. Like, I've had some literally straight up ask me very much within the realms of cheating information. And I think it's a deal for some of those guys where they're on the borderline of down at the bottom of the standings, really need a check, whatever. Some of those guys just weigh it as a risk-reward deal, and if they get caught, they get caught. If they get polygraphed and they get caught, or if something gets out and they get caught, I think they just weigh it as a risk-reward deal. And if it's worth it to them to ask because they need the check that bad or they need the points that bad, then they take that chance. So does it happen? In my opinion, do I know for a fact? No, I don't know for a fact. Do I believe it happens? I believe it happens at every event on some level. So will there be cheating this year? And my best guess would be probably so. Will any of it get caught? Or if they do get caught, will we hear about it? My guess would be probably not. As you can tell from the way Bass Pro Tour handled it last year, these organizations are much the same. No matter how much they go at each other, these two organizations are very, very much the same. And they operate in the same manner, they operate in the same world, and they handle a lot of things the same way. And they do not want things like that getting out. Period, end of story. That's the reality of it. I know I've been getting some comments tonight, and I haven't really been responding to comments. Are we going to have a line of deep cranking rods in our LGB? Let's go, Brandon. Let's go, Bassett. Let's go, Brandon. Yes, we're going to have a deep cranking rod. It's going to be coming out. We should have that out. We'll probably bring that out about, probably have it ready to go late April, early May. Start selling them in May because that's about the time we'll start needing them. So, yep, we are definitely going to have one. Already been working on it. Yeah, some of you guys are saying the info rules are dumb. Man, I kind of tend to lean that way. Honestly, like my personal opinion of it is that I think that the info rules should kind of be what Jeff told the guy it was. Like, you can get info until you go off limits on the water, and then you can't get any more info. Now, the reason I say that is because, man, there's so much information that's out there publicly anyway. Like, when you come to Lake Fort, like, there's a lot of info on this channel about Lake Fort. And, like, a lot of those guys do watch the stuff that we do because of that. Listen, I'm a drop in the bucket. I'm not saying, like, oh, our info's so great. Like, I'm a drop in the bucket. There's so much info that's out there publicly on all these different lakes these days with everything that's on social media. So, it's it's hard to limit information in this world that we operate in today. It really is. So I think they ought to relax on that somewhat, and then just put them off limits on info, a few weeks before the tournament or something like that. What you don't want is you don't want a guy talking to a guy the week of the tournament and telling them, "Hey, dog, that school just showed up on this point. They're stacked. Go get them." Like, that's what you don't want. That's what's going to make a difference. Also, if I tell a guy right now, let's say they got a tournament in Lake Fork at the end of March, right? Or in April. And I tell a guy right now, here it is, mid-February, I'm like, say, dog, this creek channel right here, they're loaded up in there. That's going to do him no good in April. It's not going to help him one bit. So I don't think they need the no information rule to extend months and months out. I don't think that matters. Jacob Martin says lower weight rating on the LGB 711 rod. That information is on our website, but it's 6 ounces is the top end. I believe it's 1 to 6 ounces, but I know 6 ounces is the top end. What else? Oh, sponsorship deals. Boy, don't I know about this. Sponsorship deals don't always work out, guys. They don't. They don't always work out. This has come out this week. About Lee Livesey and his deal with Ballistic Boats. He's gone public with it on Mercer's podcast. Funny how it's all the Lake Fork guys involved in all this stuff. There's never any drama around Lake Fork, none at all. It's just, none. Lee came out on the Mercer podcast, basically said he had his deal with Ballistic Boats. He thought he was getting a new ballistic boat, and then 2 weeks, with 2 weeks to go to get ready for the tournament season for the Opens or whatever, they informed him that he wasn't going to be getting a boat. Now, there wasn't any details about why they decided not to go with Lee this year or whatever. Seth Fighter is running a ballistic boat, I believe. Andy Morgan is running a ballistic boat over on Bass Pro Tour. Or no, he's running a Bullet. Andy Morgan's running a Bullet. He's been Bullet for a long time. Not ballistic. I don't know. But there's, a couple guys running ballistic boats, but Lee's been with them, and, he's promoted them hard and spoken out about how great ballistic boats were, and now Ballistic has chosen not to go with him. And I've seen some comments about, wondering if Lee broke a contractual agreement. Listen, guys, you don't know that there was a contract. And I will tell you this, unless you know that there was a contract, unless you've read the details of the contract, you don't know what those stipulations are. They could be absolutely anything. They put believe me, I know from the fallout with 6 Cents, they put all kinds of stipulations in them contracts that you don't even fully understand the language of or fully process when you sign it. You got to hire a lawyer to really understand what you're signing there. They could have had a clause in there where they could get out for any reason at any time. Most of those fishing contracts do have a clause in there where they can basically get out for any reason at any time if they really want to. It could have been a point of view from Ballistic where they've gotten the good they're going to get out of Lee, so they're not going to give him another $70,000, $80,000 piece of equipment. It could have been something as simple as that. It could have been a dollars and cents deal from their perspective. It could have been a deal where, who knows? Lee just had a wrong conversation with the wrong guy that got taken in the wrong way out of context or something, and, somebody got crossed. You never know. I mean, it may or not. Lee may not be cross with anybody, but they may have a great relationship still. I'm sure they probably do. But there is no way for you to know what goes on. Here's what I will tell you about sponsorships when it comes to the bass fishing world. They're crap. They're garbage. They're absolute nonsensical. It doesn't even make any sense. So it's just, man, it is all smoke and mirrors with that stuff, guys. It is, we'll give you free product. We'll pay you money, whatever the deal is on whatever level you're on, for you to tell everybody our stuff's the best, whether you believe that or not. Whether Lee believed ballistic boats were the best or not the last 2 years when they've been giving him a boat or whatever their deal was, giving him a discount, whatever their deal might have been. He has now been paid to tell everybody that ballistic boats are the best. He may think that a Ranger's the best or a Skeeter's the best, or he may like this boat better or that boat better. But he's been obligated to tell everybody that Ballistic is the best. Be wary of listening to plugs about product that people are paid to plug. I'm just telling you, in the fishing world, especially, there is so much fishing stories. Okay, like the fishing culture is like a tradition to stretch the truth, right? These guys that are sponsored by companies, it's very, very difficult for them to uphold their integrity and honesty when they're talking about product, when they're getting paid to do, talk about a certain product. It's almost impossible. I walked that line with 6 Sense. I tried to, level myself with it by saying, well, okay, we'll just not talk about the products that they're making that I don't like. But there was times when they come out with a new product, and as soon as it drops, they're like, hey, we need you to push this. So I would show that product on a live stream or whatever and be like, check out this new crankbait from 6 Sense, blah, blah, blah. Come to find out, I put it on my line and fish it. Man, I never mentioned it again because it's a piece of junk, and I hadn't been able to fish it yet. Like, it's very difficult to manage that. Getting paid from a sponsorship deal is awesome. It's a point of pride, like it's an ego boost a little bit, and it's just cool, especially being on the guide level. Like, I don't know too many guides that were getting checks from bait companies. I don't actually know any. So that was really, really cool. At the same time, now, if a bait-specific company comes at me and wants me to work with them, my answer is absolutely not, unless I have free will to pick and choose what baits of yours that I talk about. You're not going to tell me which baits to plug. I'm not going to have any restrictions on that. Well, no bait company is going to sign me to that because they could go get somebody else to do what they want them to do. I'm just not going to do it anymore. I find so much more freedom, and I can be so much more honest with you guys about what I'm using now that I'm not associated with a bait company. What I would love to have happen would be a tackle distributor sponsor me, a tackle warehouse or a smaller version of tackle warehouse, or, a retail store, somebody that can sell any product that I want to plug. So if I'm fishing a Kitex swim bait, I can tell them, hey, dog, stock up on these Kitex. I'm about to plug them because we're catching them on it. Or jackhammer chatterbaits, or Strike King crankbaits, or whatever the item might be, Santone jig, whatever it might be. I can tell them, hey, we need to have this in the store. We need to have this ready to ship because this is what I'm catching them on. To me, that's really the only sponsorship deal that I'm interested in going forward. Everything else, there's so much, there's no other word. There's so much lies. There's so much lies in the sponsorship game in the fishing world. That's all it is. Like, I can, tiptoe around it all I want to, but the reality is it's lies. That's what it is. Zach Watt says, Zoom trick worms are the best wacky worms on the market. Hashtag facts. That is facts. And I will say that Zach Watt stood by that because I used to give him free Divine Shaky Head worm from 6 Sense. And that sucker was still using Zoom trick worms, buying them with his own money. Zoom trick worms are the best wacky worms on the market. There's no doubt about that. So what boat is he going to run? Talking about Lee, that I believe he got a Phoenix boat put together. He used to run a Phoenix boat, when he was guiding when he first broke out, or like when he was fishing the opens and stuff. He was running a Phoenix out of Ships Marine in Gladewater, Texas, was where he was getting his Phoenix boats, which he kind of lives over that way, Longview or something. But yeah, he's back in a Phoenix that he got from Ships Marine, is what I believe he said the other day. So Phoenix is a great boat. He'll do just fine in that boat. He'll do just fine in that boat. In fact, if I was going to spend my money and I had to choose between a Ballistic or a Phoenix with what I know at the moment, I would buy a Phoenix. Spending my own money, I would. And Phoenix is always, for a long time now, it's been, Skeeter is, I have been fortunate with the boat deal to get a little bit of a discount on a boat from my dealer, but I've been running Skeeter boats since I started guiding. But right before that, a guy I fished a lot of tournaments with, Timmy Rhodes, I used to fish in a Phoenix a lot with him, and even had that boat in my garage sometimes at my house. And I run that Phoenix boat, and it was a really good boat. And I've been in all kinds of people's other boats, from Bass Cats to Rangers to Nitros to everything, And I'm lucky that I get to work with a boat company that I would choose to work with if I had all the money in the world. And if I didn't work with Skeeter, Phoenix would probably be my number two. That to me, that's the 1 and 2 boats in the world is Skeeters and Phoenixes right now. Some of you guys talking about Milliken going out on the opens. How will he do? Did he already fish? Did we already have it open? All right, so let's talk. You guys talk about Milliken fishing and his ability and how he just catches 40-pound bags on a Wednesday night when nobody's on the lake. Blah blah blah. Listen, dog. Like, yes, he's going to smaller lakes and he's going to places he can hammer down on because that's his job. His job is to get clicks. What gets better clicks than catching a giant bass? And he's worked himself in. Number one, make no mistake about this: the guy has worked himself into the situation. He has earned his way into the situation he's in, where he can go chase the biggest fish on the best lakes that nobody knows about, and he can take the time for days or weeks at a time to look for a lake that has giants in it. He may not get content for a few days or whatever, but he finally finds the lake that's got them. He can lean on them for a while there. He's worked himself into that opportunity to be able to do that. He's still going to lakes that are public, even though some of them aren't fished very hard or aren't known about. He's still catching the biggest bass anybody's catching in those lakes. What he's doing is still legitimate. He's also worked himself into an opportunity where for, about 7 years now, he's been fishing. 6 to 7 years at least, he's been fishing full time. Guy's been fishing probably at least 250 days a year, I would say. What does everybody tell you at the top level? There's no substitute for time on the water. Nobody, even on a tournament tour, professional tour level, over the last 6 years has more time on the water than Ben Milliken. Nobody. Period. I've been around the guy. I've fished with him. I've fished in a boat on the same lake when he's on it. He goes from daylight till dark, man. He gets after it. He works extremely hard at it. Now, will he go out to the Bassmaster Open and qualify? I don't know. Maybe not. Probably not, honestly. Probably not. But there's a chance. Like, this guy's had a lot of time on the water, and he's traveled all across the country. He's been to smallmouth lakes. He's been to river impoundments. The one place I don't know that I've ever really seen him go is like down to Florida. That may throw him for a loop down there. We'll see. But like some of that stuff, I don't think I've ever really seen him do too much of. But this guy's well-traveled, well-experienced, and he's a worker. He's definitely a worker. If his heart and soul is all into qualifying for the Bassmaster Elite Series, he's got as good a chance as anybody, I think. I think he's, with all that time on the water, don't naysay him just because he's got a secret lake figured out and he looks like he's catching fish on a pond out there. That guy's got some legitimate juice to him. First open is in March? Okay. I think you might be right. I did see that the other day. That's correct. Big Bass Blessings. This is what I'm talking about. Talking about Milliken. He says he locates giants and finds out a jackpot is going on that night and beats on 7 guys fishing out of 20-year-old Rangers with no forward-facing sonar. Opens ain't no Fairfield Wednesday nighter. Yeah, if I know Fairfield's a lake he likes, man. And listen, what's funny about that is the Fairfield deal. Like, so, golly, man, these guys talk about information passing. All these YouTube guys, man, they are some information hounds. And there's a guy named Hayden Smith that worked at Sixth Sense for a long time, man, and he can fish a little bit. Like, he's a pretty good hand at the fishing. But he was a great editing guy, great social media guy. Best video editor I've ever been around. Hands down. and never really wanted to do that for a living. But man, he's great at it. But he he went to Fairfield, and just kind of Fairfield had got the power plant had gotten shut down, and it kind of got this happened at Monticello for a little while too. Power plant got shut down. People kind of forgot it existed for whatever reason. Thought it wouldn't be as good. Whatever. People kind of quit going out there, and he went to Fairfield. Nobody's really fishing it, and he just leaned on him. Boy, he leaned on him, and he filled me in on that. So I went down there, and then Ben being with 6th Sense, I'm sure Hayden probably found out either directly or in a roundabout way through Hayden about Fairfield himself. And yeah, Ben has made a lot of video content on Lake Fairfield. A lot of content on Lake Fairfield. One thing I forgot to mention in the beginning, man, Lake Fork is up now. Now Lake Fork is under 3 foot low. Now that was that's a tremendous rise over the last few days. Last week, we were down 5.5 foot low last week, I think it was, or 5 foot low last week, and now all of a sudden we're less than 3 foot low. Here's what I will say: it's going to make the lake fish extremely tough this week. All that water just came up. A lot of that water is going to be dirty, and we're going to have a pretty hard cold front coming here tomorrow. So it's like not a good combination. These are literally the worst bass fishing conditions going into Saturday. The worst you can have, that's what Saturday is. I would suggest hitting a different lake than Fork if you're trying to fish this weekend. You can go to Power Plant Lakes, of course. They're always a safe bet. But also, Lake Athens has been fishing good. Lake Fairfield has been fishing good. Some of those lakes that are smaller don't get as much flow. Water levels don't change as much. Water clarity doesn't change as much. It's a big deal. You're going to have a lot better chance of those smaller grassy lakes like Fairfield, Athens, and Welsh, and Martin Creek, Brandy Branch. All those kind of lakes are going to fish better in these situations than a bigger lake is. A bigger lake gets that dirty water, gets that rise to it, man, that's the toughest conditions you can draw on bass fishing. It really is. So that would be my suggestion for fishing this weekend would be don't go to the big lakes with all this rising water and muddy water and cool trends that we got going on. But when you do come to Lake Fork, now that we're above 3 foot low, are your Lake Fork Guide Pro lanes that I went out last year when they drew it down 6 foot low and I idled to every corner of the lake. For the first time since we've made them, the 3 foot lanes are in play, guys. And what this means is you can run all over Lake Fork. I mean, we have got lanes in every corner. You can find that at our website, yourlakeforkguide.com. You can buy them in person at Lake Fork Marina. Now that we are above 3 foot low, there's never been navigation aids that have given you as much information as what you can use on the Your Lake Fork Guide Pro lane. So highly recommend ordering some of those, man. It's going to be handy this spring with that water level getting up where it is. Just remember, if for whatever reason we do drop back down below 3 foot low, you do not want to run those lanes that are marked 3 foot low and above once we get back below 3 foot low. If that happens, I don't think it will. It's springtime. We're going to get some more rain. We should come up to at least 1 to 2 foot low and kind of stay there for most of the year, I would think, at this point, the way it's shaping up early. You never know because it's weather and it's Texas, but I would think. The other thing is, earlier tonight, with the water coming up, if you do want to fish Lake Fork, I just put some fresh updates on there. Some of the areas I've already seen fish moving back, but with this water rising, they're really going to push back, and more of them are going to push back in there. Our Fish Life app is, if you don't know, man, it's the best help you can get in bass fishing. It is 20 spots on Lake Fork. Now, these are premium packages, and we have them for OHIV, Palestine, Toledo Bend, Sam Rayburn, Hubbard, Levon, Grapevine, Texoma, Louisville, Palestine, Lake of the Pines. I mean, we got tons of lakes on there, especially in our region right here. They're mostly in our region right around here. Bunches of lakes on there, but the premium package for Lake Fork specifically just got updated today. This water rising went in there, did some fresh updates on it. Some of the spots that were still on there stayed on there, but a lot of new spots got put on there of areas where you guys can go catch fish and have the best chance of getting a good bag or a good big fish on Lake Fork. So these are spots that stay updated by yours truly on Lake Fork. And if it's not on Lake Fork on one of our other lakes, we have other guys that are on the water like I am. They're on the water every week, and we keep those spots updated at least once a month. So go check that out. You might want to subscribe to the Lake Fork Premium Package on the Fish Life app. L-Y-F-E, spelled with a Y. Somebody said they heard Randy Oilfield mention the water temps in the low 50s on Mother Fork already. Yeah, well, what's funny is in the middle of January, I found some water that was 62. Yeah, and then we got cooler. So, yeah, no, water temp being in the mid 50s is, yes, but what matters more is the trend. So we've trended down, and we're going to trend down more this weekend. So we need some warm trends to really get things on and popping. Like, it's been pretty good. It's been not bad at all. It's been pretty good, but to really get it going, we need another warm trend or two. I will tell you this, guys. This is one thing to really think about a lot this time of year. I just mentioned it, but you really got to think about this. The trend of the water temperature matters so much more than the number. Like, don't get caught up on, well, the water's 56. Dog, if it was 64 2 days ago, that 56 sucks. At the same time, if it was 48 2 days ago and it's now 56, that's awesome, and you're going to smash them in that. The trend matters so much more than the actual temperature does. I'm talking about shackle jack, stroke their heads in 50-degree water, and I have struggled my butt off in 60-degree water in February at the same time of year. So it's about the trend. So in that 50-degree situation, that means the water was 42. We got a big warming trend. The water warmed up, and the backs of the pockets got up to 50 degrees in a day or two. All those fish, all that bait, they're getting in that shallow water, getting warm, doing their thing. They're easily accessible. They're feeling good. They're catchable. The water was 68, cools down to 60. They were already going in there to spawn. Now it shut them down, pulled them off beds, and they're just sitting there kind of in an inactive mode. They're really hard to catch. So the trend matters so much more than the temperature right now. So what you need to do is watch those nighttime temps. So if the water is 51 degrees, somebody just commented it was 51 degrees in Birch Creek today. Water's 51 degrees. And if you get 2 or 3 nights where the overnight lows are above 51, what happens is the water warms up during the daytime, and because the temperature never gets below the water temp at night, it doesn't cool off at all at night and warms again the next day. Normally it warms up and cools down, warms up, cools down. When the air temps never get below the water temp at night, it warms, stays even, and warms again, stays even, warms again. Then you get the big warming trends where the shallow water areas get super warm compared to the main body of the water, and that's when you get those crazy warming trend feeding cycles going on. And those are always, and I mean always, like the best fishing days of the year, every year. So watch for that. When your overnight lows don't get below the water temp for 2 or 3 days in a row, man, it's time. Like, it's going down, okay? So that's what you got to watch. What are my opinions on the Googans, like Fishing with Norm, Lojo, and them? Man, I don't know those guys. The original Googans, Rob Turkla, who's Lunkers TV, Justin Rackley, who's Lake Fork guy, Flair, One Rod, One Reel, John B., and I don't know Parrot really, but those other 5, I know those guys, well enough. I fished with every one of those guys, I think. Let's see, I fished with Rob for sure, fished with Justin, fished with Flair, fished with One Rod, fished with John B. Yeah, so I fished with all 5 of those guys. Way back, back when they were starting out. And Rob, I fished with this recently as year before last, I think, or maybe last year, I can't remember. Anyway, man, I like all those guys. I mean, they're different. What they do is different. But god dang, dude, they took over an industry. I mean, they took advantage of social media marketing before anybody was savvy to it, to really how to take advantage of it. And now the entire industry is trying to mimic what they did, and it's too late. They can't. They just can't. Not to the level that they did, Yeah, I think what they did is awesome. I think the work ethic that I saw from those guys, like the amount of work that went into what they were doing, if anybody actually knew and saw it, and I can't even explain it to you to where you'd actually understand, but it was incredible amount of work that went into what they did when they were growing that. And got all respect for all of them, man. They're all better fishermen than they get credit for. I'll tell you that. They're all better fishermen than they get credit for. And they're all really smart, young guys that work really hard. And they're good people. They've been good people to me. They have been. I think they're aggressive from a business standpoint. And, any successful businessman, I think, they can be a little, I don't want to say cutthroat. That's the wrong word. But they can just be, a little dry when it comes to business decisions. But, man, they're good, and they've worked hard for everything they got. All right, fellas, I think we're going to wrap it up, man. Y'all have a great night. Come see us at the free seminar tomorrow night at Lake Fork Marina at 6 p.m. Watch out for them cheaters. Y'all don't be telling no Elite Series pros where to catch them this week now. Y'all don't want to be no cheaters now. Thank you guys so much. We'll see y'all next. Don't bring your feelings around here. We don't need none of that sensitivity training stuff around here. We'll see y'all next time right here on your Lake Fork Guide. Cheers, y'all.